Tractate Bava Kamma, page 57. We start with the 56b, 6 lines from the bottom of the page. The subject of shomer sachar, meaning paid bailey, which means Reuven gives either money or valuable to Shimon, with the condition that Shimon is going to watch over that, is the key subject. We have one entity we call shomer chinam, meaning Reuven gave Shimon a valuable and he said, watch over this, and Shimon did not get paid for that. His obligations are limited. For sure, the subject of negligence, how far you go with this, versus if he gets paid. Itmar shomer aveida. So the Torah tells us in the book of Dvarim, chapter 22, if Reuven somehow discovers something, can be in many different ways, a item that belonged to someone else. The Torah said two important items. Number one, you take it, you cannot ignore it, but then you should va'asafto el toch beitecha, you should bring it to your home, v'haya imcha, and it should be adrosh achicha oto v'ashevot lo, meaning you have to return until the fellow asks for that. So obviously the Pnei Yoshua and others discuss this subject belongs to the Tractate Bava Meciah, why it's here, but anyway, Rabba amar keshomer chinam dami. Rava said that it's like unpaid bailey because Reuven sees something. Let's say he sees a expensive camera. So he's now taking it and watch over that in his house. So since he's not getting paid, so we take it as unpaid bailey, so only negligent pshi'ah he needs to pay. Rav Yosef amar keshomer sachar dami. Rav Yosef said no, it's like a paid bailey. So now the Gemara elaborates and explains why each of them think that way. Rabba amar keshomer chinam dami. Maya na'a kamatele. Rabba said he's considering as an unpaid bailey because by having this expensive item in his domain, he's not having any benefit. If you said, oh wait, but the mitzvah itself of returning. So the Ktsot HaChoshen and others said that we have the notion of mitzvot, lav lehenot nitnu. We have the mitzvot that we're not supposed to have a reward or benefit from them. So he said, Rav Yosef amar keshomer sachar dami. Rav Yosef said it's considering to a paid bailey, behahi hanaha delo ba'ei lemitva lerifta le'anya have keshomer sachar. Meaning, we have a general rules. We study it both in Tractate Brachot 11, Tractate Sukkah, page 25. If you occupy yourself in one mitzvah, you exempt for another mitzvah. Example. The great Rav Kanievsky, big example. You are davening now. A poor person come and try to collect money from you. So if you occupy with the mitzvah, according to that view, you exempt from doing other mitzvah. The Rav Sternbuch said it's not, it has to be the same mitzvah, not different one. But anyway, the idea is that the Gemara derives that when it's come to the mitzvah of return an lost item, you exempt from giving money to a poor person at that time, which means it's a two separate mitzvot. You occupy in one, you exempt from the other. Now, the thing is, only at that time a person is exempt from doing the mitzvah, but if you can do it both, that's fine. The Pri Yitzchak said that there is a two component. One is Hashev Teshivem, the mitzvah of returning the lost item. Another one, it's called Lo Tuchal Alem. You cannot ignore. So the notion is you go by the fulfilling the mitzvah of watching over that item, taking care of that item in order to return it to the owner. So therefore, if someone poor come to your door, you exempt from taking care of him at that time, you're busy with the other mitzvah, and therefore it's considering shomer sachar, a paid bali, because in a way you get a reward. Now, as we said, not everyone goes like this. You have the Or Sameach that said that it's a question how far you go with Putad Rabbi Yosef. But anyway, Ikra de Mefarshei Hachi, there are those who go differently. Rav Yosef Amar Kishomer Sachar Dami Kevan de Rachamana Sha'abdei Ba'al Korchei Hilkach Kishomer Sachar Dami, because the Torah forced the person against the will, against his will, to look after a lost item. So he basically, the Torah put on that person a very high standard of safeguarding on him. So therefore it's considering like a paid bali. Now we have the abbreviation of this seven abbreviation of seven subjects, seven kushiyot. החזירה לעולם אשר חיה אמרת נשבר שכר. The first one is eitivei. There's objection Rav Yosef raised, eitivei Rav Yosef לרבה.
Rav, a quick question before we go on to the next Amud. You mentioned something about when you're davening and someone, the poor person comes up to ask for tzedakah. What's the final halacha on that?
There is a book written by the Rav Kanievsky. It's called Derech Emunah. In that book, the great Rav Kanievsky tried to say that obviously when you're doing Shema, when you're doing Amidah, there's nothing to talk. But when you are the other part of the davening, and a person, as the Shulchan Aruch tells us, should be total focus on davening. So he said that's the concept of ha'osek b'mitzvah. You occupy yourself in the mitzvah. Patur min mitzvah. You exempt from giving, because in some shuls, God bless them, there are many people that come to you every few seconds. So in that sense, Rav Kanievsky said, look, you have to focus on your davening. There are some people who put the money out and the poor people collected, each of them a little, but you have to focus on davening, so you exempt. The Rav Sternbuch said, he said the whole idea of osek b'mitzvah, meaning if you occupied with that mitzvah, whatever it is, then you exempt from doing that mitzvah if it comes to your attention, to your possibility. But here we talk about a bailey or custodians, paid or unpaid custodian. So that's the big question, how far you go with that. You are unpaid custodian, for example, for an expensive item, and a poor person come to you. The question is, if you're really occupied of getting the person, is that exempt you from doing the mitzvah of tzedakah, right? Or not? So they said, page 57, החזירה למקום שיראנה, אינו חייב לטפל בה. So the question is, if you return, Reuven found something, and he put it in a place that the owner can see it, so he's free of responsibility because the owner doesn't have the obligation to hand it over the other party. It's enough to put it in a place, later we elaborate on that the owner can see it. There is a book called Chidushei Rabbi Aryeh Leib Malin, and he tried to ask a question: if you leave it in location the owner see it, is that considering חצר המשתמרת, a place that people can see it and it's kind of excluded location, or is returning to the owner. Anyway, נגנבה או עבדה, חייב באחריותה. If it was stolen or lost, so he is responsible. The Gemara elaborates how this one contradicted the previous one. מהי נגנבה או עבדה? What exactly you meant when you said was stolen or lost? So they said, לאו נגנבה מביתו ועבדה מביתו. You mean to say that it was stolen from the finder's home or lost from his home? So it means that if someone found a lost item, he's considering as what? As the paid barely a paid custodian that obligated to pay in the case of stolen or lost. So he said, לא ממקום שהחזירה. So from the place where the finder returned. So Tosfot explained that the proper return, it's mean to return to the owner. But if you return it in a way that it's up there, it's some type of negligence. Because think about it, it's not in the owner domain. So the Gemara said, "V'hakatana eno chayav letapel ba." We learn in the Braita that he's not obligated to deal with it, which mean he is not liable should anything then happen to it. Amar le hacha b'ma yaskinan. Here, the last part of Braita we're dealing with, כגון שהחזירה בצהריים. So we bring it back in the afternoon. והתרתי קטני, ואחי קטני, החזירה שחרית למקום שירנה, ושכיח דאיילל ונפק וחזלי, אינו חייב לטפל בה. So again, in the Gemarrah's time, it was a little different, but in general, morning, the owner is there. He come in and out, so we assume that the owner will see it and he take it. But החזירה בצהריים, if he return in the afternoon, again the key point is the owner get used to come in and out of his house, so we hope that he will see it. החזירה בצהריים למקום שירנה, דלא שכיח דאייל ונפק, דלא חז אלי, ונגנבה או עבדה, חייב באחריותה. So as we said, usually in the morning a person is house. In the afternoon he is in the field. So the big thing is when a person is coming and do that, the Khatam Sofers have a response over how far you obligated a person to to promulgate the lost. You need to put the ad in a paper to go to that expense. Do you have the obligation to put it in every shul or every place? Mishpetei Torah have a response also about return to the police. What's the problem with the secular police? Problem is that they have a room, lost items. So basically what they do, you come, you said, it's mine, and you take it. But it's not the way the Torah instructed us. So sometimes it can be a total lost or thieves, right? So it's a problematic. Anyway, so he said again, החזירה בצהריים למקום שירנה דלא שכיח דאייל ונפק דלא חז אלי ונגנבה עבדה חייב באחריותה. Because if he's not there all the time, so you don't see it, so if it's stolen or lost, you're responsible. ATV, לעולם הוא חייב עד שיחזירנה לרשותו. The founder is obligated to pay, to return the lost item, until he returned to its domain. מאי לעולם? לאו אפילו מביתו. So the big question is, לעולם. לעולם meaning is always obligated. Tosfot challenge that, but the idea is, he said, even it was stolen from his house, shma mina keshomer sachar dami. So think about it. Reuven walked in the street and he found very expensive item, let's say jewelry, and he put it in his house, and all of a sudden the thief came in and stole it. So now you tell me that he is responsible for that, because the shomer sachar, the paid custodian, is responsible in the loss of item. So you mean to say that shomer aveda, someone watch over a lost item, is the same din, the same rule as a shomer sachar, as paid custodian. So amar lei moden alach bebaalei chayim, דכיוון דנקטלו נגרע ברייתא, באין התירותא יתרתא. So he said, look, if you talk about animals, so you found an animal, lost animal, okay? So if it's a lost or stolen from a person, so you said that because typically the enters and exists and exits, so you have to watch them extraordinary. Now, Tosfot have several explanations. One goes by the stolen, one goes by lost. So, but Netivot HaMishpat and the Shach, the key notion is to try to say that you return the animal the place that the owner can see it. Is that sufficient? It's not, apparently. It's a story about Rabbi Dr of Novardok. So he has a responsa. So in those years they used to have a wagon and horses. So someone gave someone X amount of money. Let's use our coin, let's say 10,000 X. Those days rubles, nowadays dollars. And he put it in his jacket and he slept on that jacket, and in the morning is lost. Now let's think together. Is he obligated to pay? So according to Rabbi Dr of Novardok, the Pitrei Tshuva bringing him, try to say that you are obligated. You know why? Because there is a concept called shmira karaui, that you watch over properly. The thief knows where people put their money in the pocket. So therefore you assume, I know an Israeli friend of mine, he went once to Philippines. So he told me he went on a business trip. So he was in Manila, in a hotel, in his room. He wake up, instead he used to wake up 5 in the morning, he wake up like 10 o'clock. And he smells like, how do you call it? Like you put against mosquitoes, this heavy smell in the room. But actually what happened is, he has like many Reebok shoes, expensive shoes, another item expensive. And the thieves came in, they sprayed the room with something that put him to a deep sleep, whatever it is. And when he woke up, everything was gone. So basically, Rabbi Dr Novardok, this the Pitrei Tshuva bring him, he says in that case, he is responsible. Why? Because that's not considering shmira karaui, that watching over in the proper way. That's the idea, bayan tiruta yeterta, that you have to extra safeguard. Eitivei Rabba le Rabbi Yosef. So, the Torah used the word twice, Hashev Teshivem. The Pasuk said as follows, Dvarim, chapter 22. לא תראה את שור אחיך או את שיו נידחים. You should not see the ox of your brother or both animal nidachim, which means the staring, and hide them. You shall return them to your brother. Hashev teshivem leachicha. So what does that mean? The repetition of the word Hashev, you shall return. Hashev ein li ela beveito. Hashev meaning return in a highest level of that person. Leginato ulechurvato. If you talk about his garden that is not secure, and his deserted building that it's not secure, so they said, Minaim, Talmud lomar teshivem mikol makom. So the Torah said the word teshivem, meaning teshivem regardless. So even returning to his house, it's enough. Mai leginato ulechurvato. What it means, what is the meaning of to his gina, to his churva? Gina in general you can say garden, but it can be his yard. Churva can be a deserted building. So he said, that is a garden or guardian deserted building. So Tosfot explained, it means that the walls, even with a strong wind, will stand. So he said, Hainu beito, that the same as return to his house. So obviously he fulfilled the mitzvah of returning the loss. אלא פשיטא לגינתו שאינה משתמרת ולחורבתו שאינה משתמרת. So it's only if it stands in a regular wind. שמע מינה כשומר חינם דמי. So we learn from that the finder of a lost object is treated like unpaid custodian. Now, Amar li, so Rav Yosef said to Rabbah, לעולם לגינתו המשתמרת ולחורבתו המשתמרת. So the Braita does refer to his garden that is secure, or his deserted building that is secure. ודקקה שלך, היינו ביתו. And you challenge him, you say that it's like return to his home. כי כמש מלן, because the Torah repeats the word תשיבם, השב תשיבם, דלא באינן דעת בעלים. That in order to fulfill the mitzvah of returning a lost item, you do not have da'at be'alim, the awareness of the owner, that his object has been returned. Now, again, the concept is you don't give it or hand it over to a person. You just leave it in domain that you assume he will recognize that domain and therefore you return it. That's the concept of da'at be'alim. You say that you assume that the moment you bring it to his domain, the owner will know that it's returned. So, teshivem, you assume that that's enough. Not everyone goes along with this. Anyway, because when you say that the one who returned is total free from any obligation, how far you go with that? Because people watching, think about you guys, people dealing with surveillance, with security, people especially think about those who deal with those fields. You can watch everyone, every time, anywhere, basically, in our modern days, right? That's the concept of surveillance. Kol ma'asecha b'sefer nichtavim. Everything is written, everything is watched. So the question is, you take an expensive item, you give it to the other guy, you don't hand it over to him, somebody else can see what you're doing and can pick it up. Anyway, כדרבי אלעזר, דאמר רבי אלעזר, הכל צריכים דעת בעלים, says that every case in which something is returned requires the awareness of the owner. For example, a thief, a robber return an item, so their obligation that the owner know that it's returned to him. Now, חוץ מהשבת אבדה, שהרי ריבתה בו תורה השבות רבות. When it's returning a lost object, the Torah included many types of returning that makes it valid. So therefore, it means that it's a total return to the person. So for example, you live in a residential building. You get an envelope that belongs to your neighbor. Are you enough just to put it in his mailbox? Or you need to hand it over to him? Lichora, it's enough to hand it over in his mailbox. What?
That's a normal way it would be delivered.
Oh, normal way. But sometimes you have the same, the mail people, they put it the same address in a different street.
Well,
Meaning,
I get my neighbor's mail all the time.
Yeah.
So,
but there is a Yarchon, it's a monthly magazine in Monsey, New York. They ask a question, it's a discussion, very interesting. It was a Baal Tshuva, a penitent, a person who was not religious or not properly observed the life of Torah and mitzvot. And he owns a grocery store. And in those years, people used to write. You remember the generation that used to pick up eggs, a box or bottle of milk and things like that, and the owner registered it. So the story goes that this fellow, he was dishonest and used to write, you pick up one milk, he wrote two. You pick one box of eggs, he wrote two. And one day, he did teshuvah. So now the question is, what do you do? How do you return to those people? It's many people. So he thought, okay, from now on, anyone who comes, I'll do the other way around. Right? So you pick up 2 bottles of milk, I'm going to write 1 bottle of milk. Right? The question is, it's a discussion in that magazine, Good Morning. If you have in one hand Da'at Be'alim, the owner knowledge of what's going on, versus Takanat HaShavim. Takanat HaShavim meaning that you have a special rules that applies to those people who are penitent, who are sincerely wants to do teshuvah. How far you go with that? So think again about this guy. He owns a grocery store. For you just came in, so you know the story. The fellow owns a grocery store, and he was dishonest. How he was dishonest? People come and buy. In those years, if you remember, people used to write. The owner used to write down. You take a milk, you don't have cash. It's before the era of credit cards, right? So he puts, he wrote down, you don't have cash? Okay, so box of eggs, you owe me, right? So you owe me X amount of dollars. So he was dishonest and you took one, he wrote two. Took one bottle of milk, he wrote two. You took one box of egg, he wrote two. One day he did teshuvah, right? So now, what should we do? It's too many people, right? So in one hand, we have a concept that's called takanat hashavim. We don't want to close the doors before those people who wants to do teshuvah. We don't want to show to him that it's so hard and so overwhelming and so many people and such a mess that you will never be able to be a pious, good fellow. On the other hand, there is a concept of da'at be'alim. The owner needs to know, Mr. A needs to know that you stole from him a milk, meaning the value of a milk or egg, and you now return it. So what he wants to do, you take two bottles, he wrote one. And he figured out over the time, with Hashem's help, I'll be able to compensate back to all those people whom I stole from. The question is if it's that good or not. It's a magazine, they have a response over that. Anyway, אמר לאביי לרב יוסף, ואת לא תסברה דשומר אבדה כשומר חינם דמי. You not hold that someone who watch a lost item is considering like unpaid custodian, barely. ואמר רבי חייא ברבא, אמר רבי יוחנן, הטוען טענת גנב באבדה. So, a person found, for example, expensive jewelry, okay? And he basically a thief, he took it for himself. But he said, I don't know, I found it, but it was lost. Or he said here in this case that somebody else stole it from me. So they said, Meshalem tashlumei kefel. So if you have an unpaid custodian that said that something that I watch over was stolen from me, and therefore we requested him to do what? To take an oath. And therefore, he's free. All of a sudden, he have a guest in his house, and two witnesses came in and says, this guy is a liar. He is in his house. They call him back to the Bet Din. So, in addition to pay what he stole, he needs to pay double. The same as a thief. Remember, the Torah said clearly, they repeat, when it's come to unpaid custodian, the Torah said in the book of Shmot, chapter 22, Im lo yimatzeh haganav, yeshalem shnayim lereu. So it's a double portion. So that's, Rabbi Yochanan said that that's applied not only to a regular thief, but applies also to someone who's watch over a lost item. If he lied and he said that somebody stole it from him, and he took an oath, and then it turns that he is lying, so he needs to pay, in addition to return the item, he needs to pay double. So, ואמר רבי חייא ברבא אמר רבי יוחנן, טוען טענת גנב באבדה, משלם תשלומי כפל. ויסר כדתך שומר שכר רבי, if you tell me that he is like a paid custodian, paid barely, why you impose on him double portion? Karna ba'ei shalumei. He needs just to pay the principal, right? Even it's true. So it means that if later on it turns that he is the thief, so he doesn't need to pay double. So they said, Amar lei hacha b'ma yaskinan, כגון שטוען טענת ליסטים מזוין. So here you have a new case that you talk about bandit or thief. What? Robber. Right, robber. So that guy came with the gun and says, give me the money. So he's stuck, right? So you have no choice. Amar lei, so He said, Listim mezuyan gazlanhu. So that's the famous rule. You remember we talked about it when we dealt with the different rules between Ganav and Gazlan. Ganav is a thief. Thief needs to pay double. Gazlan is a robber. Robber needs to pay just back what he stole. We explained the difference between them. Is the robber, right? He doesn't afraid from people, from anything. From God, from people. He come during the day, pull out the gun, give me the money. So he need to return what he stole. Thief feels that there is no God, and he's afraid of people. So therefore, we impose double on him, right? He needs to pay 2 times. So they said, Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Lebracha, have a response over what is the definition, agdara, of listim mezuyan, of a robber. Are you really petrified over that, or people not petrified? How? Furthermore, there is a discussion, halacha, Reuven borrowed tefillin from Shimon. And all of a sudden, the pair of tefillin was lost or stolen. So let's say if the pair of tefillin worth $600, there are tefillin that worth even more. Now, I know a guy that paid for tefillin close to $1,500. Anyway, now the guy wanted back. How much he needs to pay him? It's not so simple. Why? Because there is a tshuvat haran, there is a responsa from Rabbeinu Nissim, from the early rabbis, who said that in a regular case of a borrower of shoel, kol ha'ana'ah shelo, all the enjoyment, the benefit is his. But when it's come to this, Reuven borrowed tefillin from Shimon, lo kol ha'ana'ah shelo, he doesn't have the entire benefit. Why? Because number one, Shimon, by lending his tefillin, he already have fulfill a mitzvah, and he drive a benefit and joy by giving his tefillin. 2, Reuven, while he putting tefillin, there is a prutad Rabbi Yosef we study, meaning if a poor person come to him and ask for money while he is wearing the tefillin, so Shimon gain a mitzvah for lending it to Reuven, because while Reuven has tefillin, he gave money to a poor person. So therefore the Ktsot HaChoshen, Netivot HaMishpat have a discussion if this, the idea of driving hana'ah, mitzvot lav le'enot nitnu. Mitzvot is not for driving benefits. So the Machne Ephraim tried to differentiate. When you borrow tefillin, so he said that the entire benefit is yours. And therefore, if something happened, you are obligated to pay. But anyway, Amar le shani omer listim mezuyan, when I use the term a forceful robber, kevan demitamar meinshei ganavu, because he's hide from people rather than stealing openly, so we treat him like a thief. So it means that even he steal openly, since he does so by employing a weapon, he also exhibits fear of people, and therefore we attach him the same concept as a thief. So he's liable to pay double portion the same as a regular thief. And that's the idea of ganavu. So result, since a paid custodian is absolved by means of such a claim, if it is determined that his claim was false, he must pay double. 80. So now we bring an objection to the opinion of Rabbi Yosef from another braita. 57b, lo. So Rashi said, matnita hi velo yadana echatanya. I don't know what the connection is said. Tosfot said that that's what we said earlier. It's the Gemarrah in Bava Meciah 41b. in regards to shlichut yad bepikadon, which again, the big question is, and you are safeguard of somebody else, estate, and then something happened in between. So anyway, אם אמרת בשומר חינם שכן משלם תשלומי כפל, if you tell me about the unpaid custodian who pays a double payment, תאמר בשומר שכר שלא משלם תשלומי כפל, so you said with regard to a paid custodian who does not pay a double payment. So Tosfot said that when it comes to someone who gets paid and then was untruthful and said that it was stolen, it's much more than a unpaid custodians that needs to pay kefil for double for lying over that, because again the idea of getting paid make it worse. But anyway, ואיסר גלת ליסטים מזוין גנב, והוא נמצא בשומר שכר, משלם תשלומי כפל בתור נתנת גנב, ליסטים מזוין. So again, the whole idea is that he said that this was a armed bandit that did it, and therefore you see in the cases like a stolen item, we take it much severer than unpaid custodian versus paid custodian. ATV. In general, Tosfot in the Amud Aleph ask about paid shomer sachar, paid custodian, paid belly. Imagine a situation. Let's say Elliot gets from Gilbert $5,000 cash, and Elliot, get paid for watching over the money, and he put it in a safe, and he put the alarm on a safe. And guess what? Nowadays the thieves are so sophisticated that they can, right, Kat? They can get to the system in all kind of ways possible, right? The money is gone. Is Elliot still need to pay or not? Now think about it. What is honest? Honest meaning it's beyond your control. Now Elliot said, what do you want me to do more than that? I took your money, I put it in a safe, I put the alarm in a safe. The fact that somebody gets in, either watch me or watch the code or have the way to circumvent the system and put it out, what more I can do? Now listen carefully. If you go by the Tosfot, what do you tell? What do you think? Rabbi Isai, I ask you a question. Let's repeat the question. Make sure I know it's early in the morning, but think about it. Let's say Elliot gets from Gilbert $10,000, $5,000, whatever it is, large sum of money, right? 100,000. And he gets paid for watching it. And he put it in a safe. All right? And he put the alarm in a safe. And a thief came in and stole the money. Does Elliot needs to pay or not? What do you think?
Most times an employee is not held responsible for their actions.
He gets paid. Elliot gets paid. Gilbert pay Elliot for watching over his money. Huh?
Yeah. Well, if you're getting paid, then you are
responsible. He's a paid
responsible.
custodian, therefore he should.
Okay. So Tosfot said.
Right, but
Tosfot said in Amud Aleph, only when you have listim mezuyan,
right.
a robber that come with the gun,
Right.
then you exempt from honest, you exempt from
If your life's
situation.
in danger,
Right.
basically.
Yes, but he said, shomer sachar, a paid custodian, chayav b'gneva veda.
Right.
You are responsible because you get paid. If it's stolen or lost from you, you are responsible. So as much as you go, listen carefully, as much as you go and you said, it's beyond my control, Elliot said. I put it in my safe and I put the alarm. The bottom line is, you should know, just a vignette, is a machloket, is a disputation between the mechaber and the rema. Is in the code, you have code of Jewish law, right? Written about 450 years ago, 60 years ago. So in the code, there is the author, the mechaber, the great Sephardic rabbi, that the author, the main author of the code, who said that he is, like Tosfot, he is paid chayav because he's shomer sachar, he is paid barely, paid custodian, and therefore no matter what, he needs to pay. Versus Rabbi Moshe Isserlich, the great Ashkenazic rabbi that wrote interlinear interpretation of the code. You know the story of the code. The code, originally it was a great rabbi that wants to have a Sanhedrin, follow the Rambam idea that we transmit the Semicha to all the Rabbonim, build the great Supreme Court, 71 rabbis, Rabbi Yaakov Beirav, the Ridvaz. Anyway, it fall apart. There's a few versions, either because they didn't invite the Rabbi of Yerushalayim, or didn't invite the chief rabbi of Egypt, whatever it is, by force of circumstance, they have no choice but, instead of building the Sanhedrin, to write the code of Jewish law. So he's the author, wrote it in a Sephardic way. When the Ashkenazic people get it in Poland, they said, you have a lot of things you wrote that is not our tradition. So they have a choice either to write a new code for the Ashkenazi, or, so it was a great, great rabbi that was a peacemaker too, that he decided, no, we take the code as is, and we just write on the bottom interlinear interpretations, how we as Ashkenazi in certain things does things. So his name is Rabbi Moshe Isserlich. And that great rabbi, 400 and some years ago, he, with this case, said, no, as David said, he's exempt. But you see in the final halacha, you see a disputation between the Mechaber, the author of the code, and the Rema, how you treat it. Because according to the Mechaber, you get money, you're responsible, we don't care. Think about banking business. Do you care if someone robbed the bank? If you put the money in a bank, you want the money back. You don't care. If you put it in a mutual fund, if you give it to Charles Schwab, or whatever it is, you put your money. You don't care what happened to the organization. You want your money, right? So that's called shomer sachar. I paid you for account. I pay you whatever it is. I want my money. Versus the Rama said, look, it's beyond his control. He put it in the safe. He put the alarm. What do you want him to do? It's based on that. Based on that Tosfot, in Amud Aleph, the Tosfot said, only if you have listim mezuyan, if you have a robber with a gun that come and said, give me the money, that's the only time that it's beyond your control. But if it's a shomer sachar, he says, if it's a barely paid custodian, chayav b'gneva v'da, you're obligated when it's a stole or lost item. Right?
Earthquake, big fire, some act of God.
I said every case is different, but in general term, that's the machloket. That's the disputation between the Mechaber and Rema. How you treated something beyond person control. In general mindset, the rabbis hold the moment you get money, you get paid, you're responsible. Like famous question, you hire a babysitter to watch your baby, okay? All of a sudden, from some place in your house, a thief came, climbed over the fence, climbed over the window, and stole money. Is she responsible or not? She said, you hire me to watch your baby. You didn't hire me to watch your house. So she's called shomer chinami. She unpaid barely. She unpaid custodian. Because what she gets paid, and you came in and says, what are you talking about? Look what they stole everything. You're sitting here, what do you do?
But if
right?
the thief took the baby.
That's different. Eitivei. Venishbar omet. So they said, if someone borrow an animal from his fellow, the Torah said, if it was broken or passed away, he needs to pay. Enli ela shvura umeta, which means that's honest, that's beyond a person's control. Gneva ve'aveda minayin. How do you know about stolen or lost item? אמרת קל וחומר, ומה שומר שכר שפטר בו שבורה ומתה, חייב בגנבה ואבדה. שואל שחייב בשבורה ומתה, אינו דין שחייב בגנבה ואבדה. If you tell me that paid custodian, right, that if it was broken or that he is obligated to pay in the case of lost and stolen, someone who's a borrower, what is that man borrower? You borrow utensils, you borrow something. Here you borrow the animal from your fellow, right? So if something happened, you are obligated. So they said, "Zeu kal vachomer she'en alav tshuva." This is one of those logical. This is one of the what's called fortiori, whatever it is, kal vachomer, that there is no refutation. If you tell me that this thief, armed bandit, is considered a thief, amayin alav tshuva, why don't have a refutation? Ika למפרח, מה לשומר שכר שכן משלם תשלומי כפל ביתו, ניתן ליסטים מזוין. Why? Because the robber, someone who's an armed bandit is considering a robber. אמר לך, סבר התנא, קרנה בלא שבועה, עדיף המקפלה בשבועה. When a person needs to pay just what is lost, even without making a false oath, is better than a person needs to pay double only after he make a lie, he lie under the oath, he make a false oath, and the two witnesses came in and said he is lying, right? So in a sense, a borrower we treated much severely than paid custodian. Why? Because if it's honest, if it's beyond the person's control, even he didn't make those oaths, he's already responsible, versus a paid custodian that in some situations is exempt. For example, let's face it, if someone come, you watch over money or something, somebody else, and all of a sudden a robber came in with a gun, and you're going to die if you don't give him the money, right? So what are you expecting the person to do? It's beyond your control, right? That's the whole exemption we're talking here. Lema mesayea le. Before we go further, I want to explain something to everyone so they understand the concept. This is Gemarrah in Bava Kamma 34. People afraid to take vow, and sometimes people rather pay what they don't have to pay or do things they don't out of fear. What does that mean? Imagine a scenario. They ask you to come before the rabbinic court to place your hand on the Torah and take a vow. And let's go to extreme case, that you, not 99, that you 100% okay. But still, even you're 100% okay, you have this trepidation, this fear to place your hand and take an oath. With Torah, without Torah. People like that. There are people, imagine, somebody come to you and said, you owe me $1,000. You said, you forgot, I gave you back the $1,000. He takes you to Beis Din. Now you are the front of 3 rabbis. So imagine, he take you to your rabbi, and the rabbis pull out the Torah and says, Gilbert, place your hand on the Torah that you gave him back the $1,000. And you feel in your heart, even 100% you gave him back the $1,000. But the merely fact that they asked you to place your hand in the Torah, you rather give him the $1,000, another one, and not place your hand on the Torah. There are people like that, right? They're afraid of taking an oath, right? Okay. So למה מסייע לי? הסוחר פחם לחברו ונגנבה. It's not necessarily cow, but here we're doing cow, Talmudic style. So Reuven borrowed a cow from Shimon, and somehow along the line, that cow was stolen. ואמר עלה, so Reuven said to Shimon, הריני משלם ואיני נשבע. Guess what? I'm not going to all this process of taking oath and the bet din and everything. What is the cow value? 10K, here is the money. Leave me alone. Even I know I'm not responsible, I'm giving it to you. I don't want to take an oath. Right? So Shimon accepted that. And guess what happened afterward? ואחר כך נמצא הגנב. And all of a sudden they found Levi who stole the cow. So again, the reason Reuven gave the money to Shimon is not because he admitted that he is responsible, it's because he didn't want to take an oath. Now you found Levi, that he is the one who stole it. משלם תשלומי כפל הסוחר. Guess what happened here? What do you understand? He needs to pay to the one who rented, which is Reuven. The thief pays the double payment to the renter and not to the owner. So again, let's understand. Reuven borrowed a cow that worth 10K from Shimon. That cow was lost. Reuven wants to take Shimon to court and make a vow. Shimon wants to take Reuven to court and make a vow. Reuven doesn't want to go to that, and he pays Shimon 10K. All of a sudden, Levi turned to be the one who stole it. Right? Let's trace the situation that the cow is gone or is not gone. Whatever it is, now 20K, 10K 2 times, who pays whom? Levi paid to Reuven. Nothing to do with Shimon. You get it? סברוע כרבי יהודה דאמר סוחר כנושא שכר דמי. So the same as Rabbi Yehuda who said, a renter is like a paid custodian and is liable for theft or loss. Okay? ובדקתני ואמר אני משלם ואני נשבע, because he said what? I rather pay and have to take an oath, מכלל דהיפטר לנפשי בשבועה, which means if he wanted originally, Reuven can take an oath and he's exempt from giving anything, right? היכא דמי, כגון דטעין טענת ליסטים מזוין. For example, he said that it was a horrible armed people, armed bandits that came with guns, right? And they give him a choice between dying or give away the cow. וקטן ואחר כך נמצא הגנב משלם תשלומי כפל הסוחר. Then we said if you found the thieves, you need to pay double to the renter. שמע מינה ליסטים מזוין גנב הוא. So it means only a thief, another robber, needs to pay double. For sure, the קצות החושן another challenge this Gemara based on what we studied in Bava Meciah. Anyway, Ibai Teima, it's another option. We said that the מחליף רבא ברבוע בתנא, סוחר כיצד משלם. You have here a situation, that's Gemara Bava Meciah 93. Someone who rent an item, how he paid? רבי מאיר אומר כשומר שכר. Rabbi Meir hold that he needs to pay the same as paid custodian. Rabbi Yehuda אומר כשומר חינם. Rabbi Yehuda said it's the same as unpaid custodian. So therefore, even if this braita, it is they follow the view of Rabbi Yehuda, it does not provide support for Rav Yosef's opinion. So the Ritva in Masechet Shvuot said, according to Rabbi Yosef, how do you say that the idea of Shomer Chinam, the unpaid custodian? Because, you know, a poor person can come at that time, he needs to give it tzedakah, so it's considered Shomer Sachar. But that's the idea of Shmor li v'shmor lecha, that you give me and I give you. It's like between two people, you do favors to me, I do favors to you. Rabbi Zera אמר אחר מהסכם בטוען טענת ליסטים מזוין ונמצא ליסטים שאינו מזוין. So he said it was a armed forces person that came and threatened me with the gun. And it turns, the truth is that it wasn't so it was just a thief, unarmed person. So that person, the bandit, paid the double payment to the renter. So you don't have any conclusive proof that one who found a lost item had the status of a paid or unpaid custodian. So it's a book, very important book called Merkavei Argaman, one of the luminary rabbis. He have a discussion over contemporary issue related to that, which is insurance. Guess what? You have people, tell me if it's right or wrong, Mr. Elliot or Gilbert, Cat, people leave their car in a place that is a war zone or a lot of bad people, and sometimes even the key in their car. Guess why? They want the people to steal the car and the car disappear, and then to go after the insurance. All right? So by halakha, obviously, is a violation of Jewish law by all means. And people take it literally because they said, oh, the insurance making so much money over me, they overcharge me and all the kind of things, and his insurance is not a personal thing, or is the government, or who cares, and all kind of things like that.
Yeah,
but
the government
what?
may catch up.
No, I'm not talking about catching up, I'm talking about before, regardless if they're catching up.
Yeah,
there is a great rabbi in Vienna. His name is Rabbi... I know, the halacha is totally wrong, but he's a Rabbi Leiter of Vienna. So he said the same applies to any type of dishonesty when it's come to this insurance. You have a big response, and the key is the moment you know in your heart when you left the car in that area, and your intent was not your intent was to have someone stealing your car, then automatically whatever happen afterward, it's all basically a violation of halakha, no matter how things happen and what happened.